Welcome to this week's What the Fuck Forecast. For those who are new, my name is Eliza Rose, also known as Pleiadian Star Healer. I will leave my Facebook and Instagram username in the description box. So we're going to be talking about what is the current what the fuck energy, the hidden energy behind it, what is the purpose, what is it trying to teach you, the lesson of it, and then how you can turn your what the fuck into a blessing. Okay, how you can shift things around, right? So this week I'm using the Tarot Wild Unknown. I love this deck. I feel like I connect really well with it. Okay, so we're gonna draw some cards. I'm gonna explain what is the energy. Well, I guess that one, right? I'm going to put that measure. Okay, so the current what the fuck energy is the Ten of Swords. Very ugly card, right? Okay, so it seems like the current energy, it could be rock bottom. A lot of you pray going through a very big transformative time, feeling like you really hit the bottom of your life right now. There can be betrayal. This can also be I feel like there might be people, you might find yourself fighting with people. Drama, this a very dramatic card. Okay, so you could find yourself being either sucked into drama, people trying to pull you into drama, probably fighting with people. With the swords, I always conclude them with the mind. So this could be a very mental card. Maybe trying to get your thoughts and opinions across, and things are just getting, all messed up, right? So, here you have to understand this card also has to do with how do you relate to the drama. When people are trying to suck you into it, you have to figure out what the people who love drama, like, what is it about yourself that you can see your reflection in them? Is there something that you are missing, from that puzzle, right? So the hidden energy behind that is the Nine of Cups. And this is, harmony, bliss, letting go of fear, so there's the hidden energy behind the drama, right? But how do we get here? Right? So the lesson is, what is it trying to teach you? So we got this, the Nine of Swords. This is also a drama card, very ugly card. This is like anguish. This has to do with feelings of depression, insomnia, nightmares, feeling stuck, because if you see like the swords are pinning down whatever this ugly thing is, eyes, what they called it, the evil eye, envy, people with malintent. So I find that, especially nowadays, people are throwing their opinions across, and I find that I don't understand where people get the sense of entitlement, where they feel like you have to explain things to them. There has to be some type of explanation. And it's like, you don't really have to explain yourself to no one. Yes, of course, you always want to speak your truth. Communication is very important. But, not every situation requires for you to speak. Sometimes, when a person's not, willing to hear a message, there's nothing you can do. You can just keep on and on saying the same thing, but a person who's not willing to grasp the message, there's nothing that can be done, and sometimes being silent is more powerful, So, how can we get unstuck, right? So we have here the Mother of Swords, which is another mental card. We have wisdom, using your wisdom, and your mind, learning, being sharp, being perceptive, intuitive. A person is very strong in their intuition. Use that, Also, I have pulled 2 extra cards, and we have the Magician, and we have Justice. So we have here also the balance, shadow and light. Also, these are decisions, karma, making a conscious choice, right? On how you can shift the energy and making it work for you. How to get out of that kind of energy or situations where people want to just suck you in, Also, if you're going through a really, really hard time, as I said before, with the rock bottom, you may find yourself, in depression, not being able to sleep, really having a hard time. Because look at the card. These cards are not pretty whatsoever. Okay, so you're probably having a really, really rough go at it, especially mentally, but how do you want to get here, to the bliss, to the harmony, and that is making a conscious choice, you're making a decision. And sometimes this is also karmic, we have lessons that we need to learn, and we find ourselves in repetition, we always face a certain situation over and over, and sometimes we ask ourselves like, why? And sometimes we always have to ask ourselves. I always say, ask yourself, what do I need to learn? What is this situation trying to teach me? Why does this keep happening to me? So we need to be very perceptive and use our wisdom. Why is this thing happening? Why? What can you do about it? How can you be a magician and shift that? How can you make these things? And usually it is, sometimes you have to cut people off. Sometimes you can't participate because not everything deserves a reaction, right? Because there's just some things that, people's reactions or just the way people go about certain things, sometimes it is best to not react, and just be like, whatever, to really understand it from a objective, and this is where the Mother of Swords is, a person who can intellectually stand back and go, look at the other person who is like acting unaccordingly and say, you know what, I don't want to participate in this no more. And knowing just when to say, you know what, forget it. Sometimes we don't do that because we don't want to feel like we've lost. We don't want to feel like they defeated us. But sometimes it is best to just stay silent and just be like, whatever. Because no matter how much you say, a person who is not willing to hear and to understand the message, no matter what you do, they're not. There's no way, you're going to get through to them. And I find like that's exactly what's going on, especially now with, with the elections and politics, like people are throwing their opinions and, facts and all that. But people who are not willing to understand or even be flexible to shifting their way of thinking, who people are not willing to be that magician, there's nothing you can do for them. Sometimes you have to leave people in their ignorance and say, you know what, whatever, just whatever. You need to learn how to not participate in that. So if you're having a hard time in the job, or you have a lot of loss, a lot of betrayal, you're going through a bad breakup, there's a lot of negative feelings going on, so do your best to really sit back, use your mind, but use your mind constructively, like I always say before, breathe through your emotions, try to process things, it can be very, very difficult, because you see, like, these are very, very big shadow cards, and we have here learning lessons, we have to sit and be able to sit with ourselves and really process what is happening, and say, why this, why that, how can I do this? Because sometimes we fester more on the emotion, you say like, oh, I'm depressed, but we don't really sit and go, why am I depressed? Maybe you're surrounded by people who make you depressed, because sometimes it's not just because you're just depressed because you have an illness, a mental illness. Sometimes you're surrounded by people who make you sick. So you need to ask yourself, why am I depressed? What can I do to make it different? Maybe I can seek some, help, counseling, therapy. There's a lot of different forms of therapy that you can do to help yourself to get to bliss, to harmony. I'm not saying it's going to solve all your problems in one day, because that is impossible. It's a continuous journey, never-ending journey. You're learning constantly. There will be lessons that will repeat itself. But you have to ask yourself, like, why? How can I shift this? You know, because there's a lot of stuff going on, a lot of drama, a lot of headache, you know. And this also, you know, you have to ask yourself, do I like drama? Do I like to be stuck? Because sometimes consciously when we outspeak, we'll say, no, of course not. I hate drama. I hate drama. Because I notice a lot of people say that. I hate drama. I don't like drama. Yet they always find themselves in it. Why? Maybe there is a subconscious or unconscious part of you that loves that. Why? Because you don't know what it's like to be outside of that. Especially because we are creatures of habit. We're so used to living our life in a particular way. Anything that seems different from it, we get bored, or we start to self-sabotage. You know, we start to question it. Why isn't this happening? You know, we don't know how to be comfortable in bliss and in harmony when we're not used to it. We don't know how to, you know. So sometimes with that kind of thought of why isn't this norm shit happening, you know, where all this chaos is happening, but then when you come to see, it starts knocking on your door. Hey, I heard you called me, you know. And that's when the drama comes. So sometimes we don't really realize that we enjoy the drama, and we need to ask ourselves, like, do we like it? Ask yourself, do I really like to be in drama? Maybe there's a part of me that enjoys that attention. You know, as they say, negative attention is better than no attention. You know, those could be things that are really, really deep seated within you. You know, so you really need to ask yourself, do I like that? You know, if you find yourself in negative situations, like, maybe there's a part of you that's still connected to that, because you don't know how else to be outside of it. Okay, so if you're really going through it, which it seems like you are, you know, just try to process, you know, letting go of fear, because this card behind here is about letting go of fear, you know, mental, emotional fear, you know, because the cups are emotions, you know. You have water. Okay, how can you let go of fear, you know? And how can you let go of the things that don't serve you, you know? How can you get unstuck? How can you unfuck yourself, right? How can you know, because you see it's like stabbed into this thing, you know. You have a bunch of like rotting things, you know. It's a nasty card, you know. So how can you get yourself out of it, you know? Because I always say, you know, we are the co-creators, we are the magicians, we are people of power, regardless of what society says. You know, they always want to dim us down, but we're not. We are energy. We can manipulate energy. It takes practice, of course, but it can be done, you know. So think, this is a very, very thinking spread, you know. The cards that came out today are about a lot about thinking and the emotions, because we have swords everywhere except for this one, you know. This is the only card that doesn't have a sword in it, you know. So this is a very mental time, you know. And during big transformations requires a lot of thinking, a lot of processing of the emotions, you know, and really trying to get to the bottom of who we are. Exactly, like, you know, Mars went in retrograde and it's in Aries, so, you know, there's going to be a lot of questions like, who am I? What am I doing? What do I want to do? What do I want for my life? So the energy is really intense, because we were talking about Aries, god of war, and since this retrograde, you know, it's usually about going within. And how do you know what you want if you don't sit and know yourself? You need to know you as a person to know what you want, you know. So this is a good time to really slow things down and really think about, where do you want to go, you know. Analyze, you know, be perceptive, be sharp, analyze everything, your surroundings, you know, family, friends, partners, you know, jobs, you know, the co-workers, the people you're with, like, your surroundings. Are they contributing to your wellness, or are they causing anguish? Are they causing for you to have negativity, you know? So you need to really, really think and really process on how you're going to shift these energies to work for you. All right? And as I always say, whatever comes and goes, whatever doesn't work, whatever works, it's always in your favor. We may not see it then, but eventually there comes a time where we go, oh, you know, that light bulb comes on, and we go like, oh yeah, you know, it really was in my favor, you know. We need to always shift our perspective, always, because that is how we become open to new ideas. That's how we become flexible. We cannot always be so constrained to the same thing. So if you find yourself in repetitive behavior, think about it. Or if you find yourself in a situation where people are doing the same thing that they've always done before, ask yourself, like, how can I end this? And sometimes, most of the time, it's your participation. Not everything deserves your participation. There are people who don't deserve your participation. When people go, want to argue with you, but why this, why that? You just go, you don't have to really explain yourself. Just go, I said what I said, and that's it. That should be enough. I find that people feel very entitled into wanting to know why you think the way you think, and why this, why that. And sometimes, if you don't feel like participating, don't. It's like, why? Why do you want to argue? Why do you want to say your piece if you know that the huge possibility that the people on the other end are not going to hear you, right? Sometimes silence is good enough and should be enough, and you should be okay with that, and you should accept that. Not everyone deserves for you to be explaining over and over, because we got to see you be saying the same thing over and over, and that person still refuses to process what you're saying. So just really take this time this week to reflect. What do I want? How do I let certain people go, certain emotions go? How can I change the energy this week? Okay, so that is this week's What the Fuck energy. I hope that it was insightful, and I will see you guys next week. Please be sure to like and subscribe and share, and I will see you guys. Enjoy your day.